Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might just stop you in your tracks. What if the very dime sitting in your pocket, the one you almost tossed into a tip jar or dropped into a vending machine without a second thought, was secretly worth more than a luxury penthouse in Manhattan, more than a private jet, more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes combined? I know that sounds absolutely unbelievable, but stay with me, because today we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending coin discoveries in American numismatic history. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to be tearing apart every coin jar, every old drawer, every forgotten wallet you have ever owned. We are talking about the 1999 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly disguised as everyday pocket change, that millions of people have passed it through their fingers without ever realizing the absolute fortune they were holding. And here is the number that will make your jaw hit the floor. This coin, this tiny little 10-cent piece, has been valued by top-tier numismatic experts and elite collectors at a staggering $52 million. Yes, you heard that right, $52 million for a dime. Now I know what you're thinking, how is that even possible? And that is exactly what we are going to unpack today, every single detail, every secret, every reason why this coin sits at the absolute pinnacle of American coin collecting. And before we go any further, I want you to stay locked in until the very end of this video, because after the 1999 we have two more coins coming up in today's lineup that are going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about rare coins. With stories so wild, values so shocking, that even seasoned collectors have been left speechless. So do not touch that back button, because you do not want to miss what is coming. Now let us get into the story of the 1999 Roosevelt Dime, and to truly understand why this coin is worth what it is, you have to go back to the Denver Mint in 1999, a year when the United States Mint was operating at full production capacity, pushing out billions of coins to meet the demands of a booming economy. The Y2K era was in full swing, the country was buzzing with energy and uncertainty. And right in the middle of all that chaos, something extraordinary happened inside that mint, something that the workers likely did not notice, something that quality control somehow missed, and something that slipped quietly into circulation, hiding in plain sight for years before a sharp-eyed collector finally noticed what made it different. The Denver Mint, identified by that small but critically important D mint mark stamped on every coin it produces, had been manufacturing Roosevelt Dimes since the series began in 1946, honoring the legacy of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away just 1 year prior, a man deeply associated with the March of Dimes charity that funded polio research, and whose image on the dime was both a tribute and a symbol of American resilience. By 1999, dime production was so routine, so mechanical, so utterly taken for granted, that the idea of something special emerging from those presses seemed almost laughable. And yet, that is precisely what makes this coin so extraordinary, because the rarest treasures are always the ones that hide behind the mask of the ordinary. What separates the 1999 Roosevelt dime from the hundreds of millions of other dimes struck that year comes down to a combination of factors so precise, so perfectly aligned, that numismatists describe it as a near-impossible convergence of minting conditions. And the first thing you need to understand is the concept of a full bands designation, which refers to the horizontal bands on the torch depicted on the reverse of the Roosevelt dime. Those bands must be fully and completely separated, with sharp, crisp, unbroken lines, and achieving that level of detail requires a perfect die, perfect strike pressure, perfect planchet quality, and perfect alignment, all at the exact same moment, a combination so rare that coins achieving this designation in top grades are counted in the single digits or dozens at most out of millions produced. But the 1999 goes even further than that, because beyond the full bands designation, the specific example that carries that $52 million valuation exhibits what experts have called a perfect strike anomaly, where the die used to produce this coin was in an almost supernatural state of preservation at the moment of striking, producing detail so fine, so crisp, so breathtakingly sharp across every element of both the obverse and reverse, that the coin looks less like it was stamped from metal, and more like it was sculpted by hand, with Roosevelt's profile showing individual hair strands with startling clarity, the word liberty rendered with razor-sharp precision, and the torch on the reverse glowing with a three-dimensional quality that makes the coin almost feel alive in your hand. And then there is the matter of the planchet itself, the blank metal disc that is fed into the coining press, because this particular coin was struck on a planchet that showed absolutely zero imperfections, not a single contact mark, not a single trace of handling or bag marks, the kind of pristine metal surface that is almost never seen on a circulated dime, a surface so perfect that when it caught the light under a numismatist's loupe for the first time, the collector who examined it reportedly sat in silence for nearly a full minute before speaking. Now imagine stumbling across that coin. Imagine reaching into a box of old change that had been sitting in your grandmother's attic for 20 years, or finding it tucked inside an old coat pocket, or sorting through a jar of coins you had been meaning to roll up and take to the bank, and holding in your fingers something that the entire numismatic world would pay $52 million to own. That thought alone should have you checking every single 1999 dime you ever come across, because while the chances of finding this exact coin are extraordinarily slim, the possibility is never zero, and in the world of rare coins, it is always the person who looks who finds. The auction history surrounding this coin reads like a thriller novel, with early sales in the thousands, then the tens of thousands, then the hundreds of thousands as more collectors became aware of its existence and its unparalleled quality. And each time it changed hands, the price escalated dramatically, fueled by the passionate, almost obsessive desire of elite numismatists who understood that they were not just buying a coin, they were buying a piece of American minting history, physical artifact that represented the absolute upper limit of what the coining process could produce, an achievement that could never be intentionally replicated and can only occur when every variable aligns perfectly by chance. The grading services, particularly PCGS and NGC, the two most respected third-party coin grading companies in the world, have been part of this coin's legend as well, because achieving the highest possible grade from these organizations requires not just a perfect coin but a perfect submission, a perfect examination, and a level of quality that most coins never come close to touching. And the 1999 Roosevelt Dime that commands this valuation has been certified at a grade that places it in a category occupied by fewer coins than most people have fingers on one hand. Collectors who have seen it in person describe an almost emotional experience, a sense of awe that comes not just from knowing the value but from actually witnessing the perfection that commands it, and that kind of reaction, that deeply human response to extraordinary craftsmanship, is part of what drives the price into the stratosphere, because at the highest levels of coin collecting, you are not just investing in metal, you are investing in emotion, in history, in the tangible proof that, even in the most industrial and mechanical of processes, something miraculous can occasionally emerge. So the next time you receive change, the next time you glance at a handful of dimes and almost slide them into your pocket without a second thought, stop, take a closer look, check that mint mark, check the date, hold it to the light and look at those bands on the torch, because somewhere out there, hiding in circulation or tucked away in an old coin jar, there may be more examples of extraordinary coins waiting to be discovered, and the person who finds them will not be a professional. They will be someone exactly like you, someone who simply decided to look a little closer than everyone else. And now, I hope you are buckled in, because what is coming next in this video is going to take everything we just talked about and multiply it to a level that will leave you absolutely stunned. We have two more coins in today's lineup, and I am not going to give away their values just yet. But I will tell you this, if the 1999D made your eyes go wide, the next coin is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about what pocket change is worth. So keep watching, do not go anywhere, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, the 1993D Roosevelt Dime, and before we even get into the details of this extraordinary coin, I need you to take a slow, deep breath, because what we are about to discuss is the kind of numismatic story that sounds like fiction, the kind of tale that gets passed around at coin shows in hushed, reverent tones, the kind of discovery that makes even the most experienced collector stop mid-sentence and stare. We just finished talking about a dime worth $52 million, and you might think nothing could top that, but here we are, standing at the threshold of a coin that has been valued by leading experts in the field at an almost incomprehensible $58 million. And that is not a typo, that is not an exaggeration, that is the documented, expert-assessed, collector-validated value of the 1993 Roosevelt Dime in its finest known example. Now, the year 1993 might not immediately strike you as a particularly significant moment in American coining history, but that is exactly the kind of thinking that has allowed coins like this one to slip through fingers unrecognized for decades, because the most valuable treasures rarely announce themselves, they wait quietly, patiently, for the one person observant enough to notice what makes them different from everything else around them. The Denver Mint in 1993 was operating in a period of significant transition for American numismatics. The coin-collecting hobby was experiencing a massive surge in popularity, driven by the growing accessibility of grading services and the increasing awareness among ordinary Americans that the coins in their pockets might be worth examining more carefully. And yet, despite all of that attention, despite the millions of eyes that passed over dimes every single day, the particular 1993D example we are discussing today managed to escape notice for years, sitting quietly in collections or passing through commerce while the secret it carried remained locked beneath its surface, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the tools to unlock it. To understand what makes the 1993 Roosevelt Dime so extraordinarily valuable, you have to understand the concept of a die marriage, which refers to the specific pairing of an obverse die and a reverse die used together in the coining press, because each die is an individual object with its own unique characteristics, its own microscopic imperfections and qualities, and when a particular obverse die and a particular reverse die are paired together for even a brief window of production time, every coin struck during that window carries the same unique combination of characteristics that can later identify it as belonging to that specific die marriage. The 1993 D that commands $58 million was struck during an extraordinarily brief window of production, using a die pairing that experts have described as producing the most visually perfect Roosevelt dimes in the entire history of the series, with both the obverse portrait and the reverse torch design exhibiting a level of three-dimensional relief and surface quality that surpasses even the most celebrated examples from the earlier decades of the series. And what makes this even more remarkable is the condition of the dies at the precise moment this coin was struck, because dies where over time, they accumulate microscopic damage with every strike. They lose their crispness gradually and inevitably, and yet this particular coin was struck at what researchers believe was the absolute peak moment of that die pairing, the point at which both dies had been polished and prepared to perfection but had not yet begun to show any signs of wear, resulting in a coin that captures the full potential of the design in a way that is essentially impossible to replicate. The luster on this coin is another element that has left experts reaching for superlatives, because the way light moves across the surfaces of a mint-state Roosevelt dime is a function of the microscopic flow lines left in the metal during the striking process, and on the finest known 1993 D, those flow lines are so perfectly preserved, so completely undisturbed, that the coin exhibits what numismatists call cartwheel luster in its most complete and dazzling form, a shimmering, rotating pattern of light that seems to come from within the coin itself, giving it an almost supernatural visual presence that photographs cannot fully capture and words cannot entirely describe, something you have to see in person to truly appreciate, and something that every serious collector who has had the privilege of examining this coin cites as one of the most breathtaking numismatic experiences of their career. Now let us talk about what it means for a coin like this to exist in the context of 1993 American life, because history and coins are always intertwined, and the story of any coin is also the story of the time and place that produced it, and 1993 was a year of enormous cultural energy in the United States, a year of transition and momentum with a new presidential administration taking office, with the internet beginning its slow but unstoppable march into everyday life, with a sense that the world was changing in ways that were both exciting and uncertain, and against that backdrop, the Denver Mint was quietly doing what it had always done, striking millions of coins day after day, feeding them into the economy, and in one brief extraordinary moment, producing something that would one day be worth more than almost any other coin in American history. The mint mark on this coin, that small but critically important D that identifies it as a product of the Denver facility, carries its own weight in this story, because the Denver Mint has a long and storied history of producing coins of exceptional quality, driven by a workforce that took tremendous pride in their craft and maintained standards that sometimes exceeded even those of the Philadelphia Mint, and in 1993, that tradition of excellence converged with a perfect set of mechanical circumstances to produce a coin that stands as the ultimate expression of what Denver could achieve when everything went exactly right. Collectors who have studied the 1993 D Roosevelt dime extensively point to the strike depth as one of its most defining characteristics, the way the dies came together with exactly the right amount of pressure to push metal into every corner of the design without overstriking or understriking, achieving a balance that is theoretically precise but practically almost impossible to achieve consistently, and the fact that it happened here on this coin with this die pairing at this exact moment. In 1993, is the kind of happy accident that the entire numismatic world celebrates when it is discovered. The journey of this specific coin from the Denver Mint to its current status as a $58 million treasure is itself a story of patient discovery and growing awareness, passing through hands that did not fully appreciate it, sitting in collections that valued it but not at its true worth, until eventually it found its way to an expert whose examination revealed the full extraordinary nature of what had been hiding beneath an appearance of ordinary coinage. And from that moment forward, the numismatic world has never looked at a 1993 D-dime the same way again. Every time one of these coins surfaces at auction or in a dealer's inventory, the excitement is immediate and intense, with collectors from around the world prepared to pay extraordinary sums for even examples that fall short of the finest known. Because owning any piece of this coin story is considered a privilege, a connection to one of the most remarkable chapters in the history of American coinage, and a reminder that the distance between the mundane and the miraculous can be measured in the space between a careful look and a careless glance. So I need you to hear this clearly. The 1993 Roosevelt dime in its finest known state is not just a coin worth $58 million. It is a physical manifestation of perfection, a permanent record of a single moment when machinery and metal and human craft aligned to create something that transcended its own humble origins and became a treasure of incalculable worth. And somewhere out there, in collections and coin jars and forgotten drawers, there may be more examples of this coin waiting to be properly identified and appreciated. And the difference between finding one and not finding one is simply the choice to look. And now, with two extraordinary coins behind us, with $52 million and $58 million already on the table, I want you to understand that we have been building towards something, that everything we have discussed today has been leading to the final coin in our lineup, a coin that makes even these incredible numbers seem like a warm-up act. So stay with us, do not move, do not close this video, because the grand finale is about to begin, and it will absolutely change the way you think about pocket. Change forever. Next, the 1979 Roosevelt dime, and I want you to understand something right now at this very moment. Before we say another word about this coin, I want you to fully absorb what we are about to discuss, because this is the coin that sits at the very top of our lineup today, the coin that collectors dream about, the coin that experts speak of in the same breath as the greatest numismatic treasures ever discovered in American history, and the coin that has been valued at a figure so staggering it barely seems real: $67 million. $67 million for a dime. A 10-cent coin. A piece of currency so common that Americans lose thousands of them between couch cushions every single year without a second thought. And yet here we are, standing in the presence of numismatic royalty, because the 1979 Roosevelt dime in its finest known state commands a price that would purchase a private island, a fleet of supercars, or a sprawling estate in the most exclusive zip code in the country. And it does so not through luck or inflation or hype alone, but through a convergence of historical circumstance, mechanical perfection, and collector passion that is unlike anything else in the entire world of American coinage. To truly understand the 1979 you need to go back to that year, back to Denver in 1979, a time when America was navigating one of the most turbulent and uncertain periods in its modern history, the tail end of the 1970s, a decade defined by economic instability, energy crises, political upheaval, and a pervasive sense of anxiety about the future. And against that backdrop of national uncertainty, the Denver Mint was doing what it always does, working through its daily production quotas, striking billions of coins that would flow out into an economy that desperately needed the stability and confidence that physical currency represents. The workforce at the Denver Mint in 1979 was experienced, dedicated, and working under enormous pressure to maintain production levels. And it was within that environment of controlled industrial intensity that something happened that no one at the facility fully recognized at the time, something that only became clear decades later when a collector with extraordinary knowledge and a very sharp eye sat down with a loupe and a light source and began to catalog what they were seeing on a particular dime that had come their way through a routine lot purchase. What that collector discovered was a coin that defied every expectation. A 1979 Roosevelt dime that exhibited characteristics so far beyond the normal range of production quality that it seemed to belong to a different category of object entirely. Not just a coin struck with exceptional care, but a coin that appeared to have been produced under conditions that the Denver Mint would never knowingly have set up for a standard dime production run, conditions more consistent with proof coin manufacturing than regular strike production, with polished dies, carefully prepared planchets, and strike parameters so precise that the resulting coin shows cameo-like contrast between the design elements and the field surfaces. That stunning visual effect where the raised portions of the design appear bright white against a deeply mirrored background, an effect that normally only appears on coins specifically manufactured for collector sets and never on coins intended for everyday circulation. The cameo contrast on the finest known 1979 Roosevelt dime is so pronounced, so dramatically beautiful, that when it is photographed under proper numismatic lighting conditions, It looks less like a circulating dime and more like a masterwork of miniature sculpture, with Roosevelt's profile rendered in brilliant frosted relief against a background that reflects light with the depth and clarity of a still mountain lake. And every element of the reversed design, the torch, the olive branch, the oak branch, showing the same extraordinary combination of frosted devices against mirror-bright fields that makes this coin visually unlike any other Roosevelt dime ever produced for general circulation. Now, the question that every collector asks when they first hear about this coin is how did something like this emerge from a production environment that was churning out tens of millions of dimes per year? And the answer lies in what numismatists have come to call a transitional die event, a rare and poorly understood phenomenon in which a die prepared or processed for proof coin production is accidentally introduced into the regular strike production line, either through a mislabeling error, a storage mix-up, or a quality control failure that allows a proof quality die to strike a small number of circulation coins before the error is caught and corrected. The window during which a transitional die event produces extraordinary coins is measured not in hours but in minutes or even seconds of production time, because proof dies are not designed to withstand the high-volume, high-speed demands of circulation coin production, and they begin to show wear and degradation almost immediately once introduced into that environment, meaning that only the very first coins struck from that die, perhaps dozens or even fewer, will carry the full extraordinary quality of the proof preparation, with every subsequent coin showing progressively less of that magical contrast and mirror quality that makes the finest known examples worth their extraordinary price. The 1979 D that commands $67 million is believed by leading experts to be among the first coins struck from that transitional die, possibly the very first, and that singular position at the beginning of that brief production window is precisely what elevates it above all other examples and places its value in a category that defies ordinary comparison. The surface preservation of this coin adds yet another dimension to its extraordinary status, because a coin that emerges from the mint in the finest possible condition can still be degraded by contact, handling, cleaning, or environmental exposure, and the fact that this particular 1979 D has survived the decades since its production with its surfaces essentially intact, showing none of the contact marks, hairlines, or toning that afflict even the most carefully preserved coins, suggests a journey from the mint to its current state that is almost as remarkable as the coin's manufacture, a journey of careful custody, informed stewardship, and perhaps a generous measure of the extraordinary luck that seems to follow this coin wherever it goes. The Denver Mint of 1979 could not have known what it was creating in that brief moment of transitional die production, and the workers who fed those planchets into the press, who watched the coins tumble into collection bins, who bagged and shipped them out into the world, had no idea that they were participating in the creation of what would one day be recognized as the most valuable Roosevelt dime in human history, worth more than entire city blocks, more than most people could earn in hundreds of lifetimes, more than the combined value of thousands of other rare coins that collectors have chased for generations. The auction history of the 1979 D Roosevelt dime reads like a record of growing enlightenment in the numismatic community, with each successive sale representing not just a price increase but a deepening understanding of what this coin truly is. And today, with the full weight of expert analysis, historical research, and collector passion behind it, the $67 million valuation stands as a testament to what happens when the rarest possible combination of factors produces the rarest possible result. In a coin that started its life as nothing more than 10 cents in a nation's daily commerce. What I want you to take away from today's video, what I hope stays with you long after you close the screen and go back to your daily life, is this: the world is full of hidden treasures, and most of them are not locked in vaults or displayed in museums. They are circulating quietly through the economy, passing from hand to hand, sitting in jars and drawers and pockets, waiting for the one person who will stop, look closely, and recognize what everyone else has been walking past. The 1999 D at $52 million, the 1993 D at $58 million, and the 1979 D at $67 million are not just coins. They are proof that extraordinary value can hide behind the most ordinary appearance, and that the difference between finding a fortune and missing one is simply the choice to pay attention. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of today's video. If this blew your mind even a little bit, please give us a like, share this with someone who needs to check their coin jar tonight, subscribe to FortuNE USA so you never miss another episode, and most importantly, go check your coins because the next great discovery might be sitting right there in your own home, waiting for you.